Trump heading into the CNN presidential debate with a partial gag order hanging over his head. What impact will that have? Well, let's bring in our legal eagles to discuss. Former federal prosecutor Trey Gowdy, along with former assistant U.S. attorney Andy McCarthy. Trey, let me start with you. Partial gag order, partial victory. What does it mean, though?
Well, first of all, Charles, you're starting with the weaker of the two lawyers, but I will give it a crack. The trial is over. The conviction is not final until he's sentenced, but the trial is over. So all of the prohibitions against, talking about certain actors within the system, there's no need for that anymore. I'm not sure the gag order was constitutional to begin with. But the litigation part of it is over. I think the whole thing should be lifted, but the judge did lift part of it.
Some, Andy, are looking at it as an olive branch of sorts. Maybe not really a big deal one way or the other, but some sort of an olive branch.
Yeah, I just don't see it that way, Charles. I agree with what Trey said. I also think that what they're doing here is defining incitement down and defining other crimes down. In other words, if Trump commits incitement, if he actually says something that would directly cause imminent harm, you can charge him with that. If he obstructs justice, if he intimidates jurors or the like, you can charge him with that. They don't have that kind of evidence, so what they're trying to do is have this sweeping order that treats him as if he's already been convicted of these things that they don't have evidence to bring against him. And the purpose of it is obviously political. As Trey said, the trial is over. There's no need for this other than to impinge on what he can say in debates and on the public stage. And frankly, the judge is going to sentence him on July 11th. How much more leverage does Merchan need over Trump than being able to sentence him in a few weeks?
Trey, and to that point, if President Trump violates the partial gag order, what could come of it?
Well, he's already been fined. The only thing left is to actually be held in contempt and put in prison. But I'll tell you, Charles, I would absolutely guarantee his election. I mean, he may very well win without it, but if Judge Merchan gives him an active sentence, because in New York, I mean, think about what you have to do to actually get an active prison sentence in New York. To put a first-time offender in a nonviolent case behind bars would guarantee his electoral success in November. So I think you're going to see probation in July.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Meanwhile, Trump's attorneys are arguing today that the search of Mar-a-Lago violates the former president's constitutional rights. So how convincing is that argument, Andy?
Pretty common argument. Almost every criminal case I've ever been involved in that had search warrants, the defense argued that things weren't in the warrant that should have been in the warrant, that things that were in the warrant weren't true, and that the agents took liberties that they shouldn't have taken. Those are pretty common arguments, and I'm not surprised that Judge Cannon is skeptical about them.
Andy? I'm sorry, Trey?
Yeah, he's right. I mean, it would be legal malpractice not to challenge the validity of a search warrant. Every defense attorney does it, and almost always they lose.
So is there any other actions that can be taken? I mean, it's again, the American public, we've been learning a lot about the law over the last couple of years. Trey, is there anything else that can be said about that? Because it looked, the before and after, the scope of it, some of the things that we saw just seemed not to have anything, not to be relevant at all to what they were supposedly looking for.
Well, I think the first thing that the American public needs to know is 11 Democrats voted for this particular federal judge. So the notion that she's in the tank, she certainly wasn't when she was up for confirmation. I'll be interested in the crime fraud exception ruling. Andy has more experience with crime fraud. I was more of a murder prosecutor. But we've been seeing a lot of lawyers testify against clients lately. Andy and I watched it for about 2 weeks. That is weird and strange, and I'd be curious Andy's take on the crime fraud exception.
Andy, you got 20 seconds.
Yeah, she's not bound by the ruling that was made in Washington, so she gets to look at that anew, and it's a big deal in the case that the major evidence in the case is testimony from Trump's own lawyer.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much. I don't care what you say. You're both A1 in my book.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.